Namo Buddhaya. Have you ever felt surrounded by people yet completely alone? It's a feeling that strikes deep and often without warning. We've all been there, feeling disconnected, isolated, like no one truly understands us. But what if I told you that loneliness, instead of being a source of pain, could become one of your greatest blessings? Yes, that same feeling that makes your heart ache can actually lead to profound personal growth, if only you know how to approach it. In this video, we'll explore how to deal with loneliness, not by fighting it, but by transforming it through the teachings of Buddhism. Stick with me because what you'll discover today could completely change your perspective on loneliness and life. Understanding the root cause of loneliness. We often think that loneliness comes from being physically alone or from losing people we care about. It's natural to assume that loneliness is caused by external factors, relationships, social situations, or the absence of company. But, as the Buddha wisely pointed out, this is not entirely true. Loneliness, at its core, doesn't stem from others leaving us. It's rooted in something much deeper, our unfulfilled desires and expectations. We crave companionship. We set expectations on others, and when those expectations aren't met, we feel the emptiness. This unfulfilled craving is like a tree that keeps growing back, no matter how many times you cut its branches. As long as the roots of those cravings remain, the loneliness will always return. Therefore, to truly overcome loneliness, we must address the root cause, not just its symptoms. The power of perspective, a Buddhist approach. The Buddha's teachings offer us a profound way to shift our understanding of loneliness. According to verse 338 of the Dhammapada, just as a tree, though cut down, sprouts up again if its root remains uncut and firm. Even so, until the craving that lies dormant is rooted out, suffering springs up again and again. Loneliness is not merely about lacking people around us. It's about unmet desires and expectations from our interactions with others. Even in the middle of a crowd, or among loved ones, we can still feel lonely because our internal cravings remain unresolved. The key is to stop relying on others for our happiness and start looking inward. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're at a party full of people, yet you feel completely out of place. You expect that being with others should make you feel joyful and connected, but that expectation is not met, leading to a sense of isolation. The problem isn't the party or the people, it's the expectation. By recognizing this, you can start to change your perspective and see loneliness not as a curse, but as an opportunity for growth. Turning loneliness into a blessing. The story of the Buddha. One of the most powerful lessons on loneliness comes from the story of the Buddha himself. Before his enlightenment, the Buddha practiced extreme self-mortification, a form of self-denial where he believed inflicting pain on the body would lead to spiritual liberation. During this time, 5 monks followed him, expecting that through this suffering, the Buddha would achieve enlightenment, and they too would be liberated by his teachings. But when the Buddha realized that self-mortification was not the right path, he abandoned the practice. The 5 monks, disappointed and disillusioned, left him, and he found himself completely alone in the jungle. Yet, despite being physically abandoned, the Buddha did not feel lonely. Why? Because he had learned to use solitude as an opportunity for introspection, self-growth, and inner peace. Being alone gave him the space to focus on his inner self, free from external distractions. This silence and solitude ultimately led him to enlightenment. The Buddha's experience teaches us that being alone does not equate to loneliness. In fact, solitude can be a powerful tool for self-discovery and transformation. Practical steps to embrace loneliness as a blessing. So, how can you apply this wisdom to your own life? The next time you feel lonely, don't see it as a burden. Instead, view it as an opportunity. Here are some steps to help you transform loneliness into a positive force in your life. Shift your perspective. Recognize that loneliness is not caused by external circumstances, but by internal cravings. Ask yourself, what expectations am I placing on others? How can I release these expectations and focus on my own growth? Embrace solitude. Use your time alone to reflect on your thoughts, feelings, and personal development. Like the Buddha, see this solitude as a chance to connect with your inner self. What are your strengths? What areas of your life need more attention? Practice mindfulness and meditation. Buddhism teaches that mindfulness can help you stay grounded in the present moment. When you focus on the now, rather than longing for what's missing, you begin to find peace in solitude. Build inner values. Loneliness can be a time for cultivating inner virtues like patience, kindness, and self-compassion. Instead of focusing on what you lack, focus on what you can develop within yourself. What personal qualities can you nurture during this time? Create healthy habits. Use your alone time to establish positive habits, such as reading, exercising, or learning something new. Developing these habits will not only distract you from feelings of loneliness, but also contribute to your overall well-being. Specific example: the Buddha's enlightenment through solitude. A powerful example of how to embrace loneliness comes from the Buddha's experience of enlightenment. After the monks abandoned him, the Buddha was alone in the wilderness. But instead of feeling despair, he saw this solitude as an opportunity. He focused inward, meditated deeply, and ultimately achieved enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Similarly, when we find ourselves feeling lonely, we can take this as an opportunity to grow. Instead of seeking comfort in external relationships or distractions, we can turn inward and focus on our own personal development. Over time, this shift in perspective allows us to turn loneliness into a powerful blessing. The lesson of loneliness. In the end, the lesson is clear. Loneliness is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It's a natural part of life, and when we stop resisting it, we can use it as an opportunity for growth. By shifting our perspective, practicing mindfulness, and focusing on self-development, we can transform loneliness into a source of strength and wisdom. So, the next time you feel the sting of isolation, remember this. It's not the absence of people that makes you lonely, but the unfulfilled cravings and expectations within. And that means you have the power to change it. Use loneliness as a time to reflect, grow, and connect with your inner self. One day, you'll look back and thank loneliness for shaping you into the person you've become. As we navigate through life, we often seek external connections to feel whole. But the truth is that wholeness starts within. When we embrace solitude and use it as a tool for personal growth, loneliness transforms from a burden into a blessing. Let this lesson be your guide the next time you feel alone. And remember that even in solitude, you are never truly lonely.